Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Full Stack Podcast. My name is Matthew Takasaki. Today I will be your host. I'd like to introduce all of our speakers today, starting over here with Jacob.
Yeah, I'm Jacob Delaney. I'm a second-year applied computer science student.
I'm Ron Etin, and also applied computer science.
I'm Thomas, and I'm a fourth-year applied computer science student.
Hi, I'm Madhur. I'm first year applied computer science student.
Yeah, I'm Qasim. I'm second year applied computer science student. And yeah, this is the podcast.
Yeah, so today we've got a few topics that we were hoping to talk about today, but the first one is going to be directed towards the high school students and sort of try and give them a bit of an idea of what kind of students and what kind of people are better for computer science or more fit for computer science. Yeah. So from my personal experience, I find that most students who are in high school who I know have gone further to go into computer science degrees generally either practiced computer science or coding in high school previously, you know, whether or not they offered classes or did it on their own time. But I find that they were normally more like math sort of focused.
I agree with that because like in my first semester, that was mostly it. Like it was math oriented, and then that's one of the main reasons I kind of switched to applied. And that goes to say like, you know, there's a lot of options, and then like in high schools, it kind of shows like a certain topic, which isn't the correct thing, right? It's supposed to be like kind of because there's like many options, right? Like applied computer science and normal computer science are two completely different things.
I find like normal computer science is more like a pipeline to academia, where like applied computer science it's more like proof of work. Like doing like a lot of assignments where it's like you're gonna see like things and get like actual experience from it.
Yeah, I feel like in my case, I originally didn't want to do computer science when I was in high school because both my parents are computer engineers.
Oh yeah.
And I saw that they were just sitting on the computer all day coding, and I was like, I didn't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
But then I found the like applied computer science, and I found that like I wanted to talk and not just sit and code all day. I wanted to have conversations with people and be in meetings, and I feel like ultimately that's why I went for applied computer science, because I feel like I'm more extroverted.
Yeah, so like I initially took computer science and I just couldn't do the math portion of it. That was like the only reason for me switching to applied. But like I thought computer science was like for the most part, like you said, like a computer job.
Yeah.
But computer science is actually a lot more broad than that, and it's really just like there's just so much different jobs that you can do with computer science. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, you can like not even code at all after this if you want to. So
I mean, like the same thing with applied. You made a good point. Like when I first got into it, I was like, oh man, I don't want to be sitting behind like a laptop just coding like hours of the day. Then I found out about applied computer science and like the whole thing because I'm more like into like the business sides and all of that management. And I found out like some of the courses are actually management, and because I'm a second year now, so and I took those courses, it showed me like it actually helped me a lot in real life examples like with management, and does not have to do anything with computer science. You meet new people with different like ideas, different backgrounds, everything. Management, right?
I think like a lot of people as well going into like coming out of high school or like, you know, you're grade 11, grade 12, you're trying to decide where you want to go for university and like what program you're kind of trying to take. I think a lot of people shy away from computer science and say, I can't do that, you know, that's too math oriented, like that's the kind of stuff my brain just won't understand. And I have a lot of friends and people that I know who I know have never touched a coding thing, they've never programmed in their life, and I know for a fact that, you know, you would be a really good programmer. You just never given the effort or like time to try it out because it's really hard to start. It's a really threatening, like, you know, read a line of like a page of code of even very simple code, you know, you want to print like a triangle of stars. That's like wildly confusing to somebody who's never touched any sort of coding before.
It does sound confusing to a lot of people. Like for example, like in one of my assignments, it was just like I had like 1,600 lines of code for and it was like and it was for web development, right? It was like for CSS.
Oh god!
And then I was like reading through it, and then it's like all of it makes sense. It's literally just simple logic English, right? But it's just like whenever like when someone who doesn't know it, like I sent it for example to my parents who aren't like into computer science as much as me, and then they read it and they're like, how did you do 1,600 lines of code? And I'm like it's literally just like it's pretty easy. It's just like it's just like you can't. It's kind of like copy pasting it, but you're not really copy pasting it.
you're copy pasting and changing a little bit.
Yeah.
I found too it's like once you have a good foundation with like one language, let's say like when you start like first year, it's like Python that you focus on. As soon as you have a good foundation with that one language, you can like transform onto other languages.
Yeah.
100%.
And I feel like it's mostly just, it's like you don't need math per se, but you need to know how to. I feel like it's more like, for
It's
example,
logic.
for me, I liked math when I was younger, but I didn't like the advanced math.
Mhm.
I just like kind of problem solving, and this
Yeah.
kind of feels
Yeah.
like you're just problem solving questions.
100%. And I've been saying that to like many of my friends, and most of my friends are all like commerce guys. Like I live with 4 commerce guys. And whenever I'm like coding something, or like you, for example, like what you're saying, like 1170, web development, you're just coding a website in HTML and CSS, which is debatably like the 2 easiest languages to learn because it's kind of just
tedious.
labeling stuff.
Yeah.
It's tedious,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll be just like changing a div or something, and they'll be like, I do not understand anything that's going on your computer right now. But if they took the time to learn it and they spent, maybe 3 hours just learning the basics of HTML and CSS, they'd understand it completely.
Actually,
And-
for the maths part, I don't think so. Maths is also a lot tough in CS.
Yeah.
I have opted for calculus, and I'm getting I'm not getting any kind of problem in solving the sums, and I'm getting the assignments. I'm solving it easily. The mathematics is based on 10th and 11th grade mathematics mostly, so that's not terrible or horrible thing for mathematics too.
So they're not gonna go like in computer science. They don't go much farther past what you know.
Well, and they do, but mostly in third, fourth
Third
year.
or fourth
Yeah,
year.
like those
That's
classes. but
that's
like
solely
machine
upon
learning
you
stuff.
if you want to choose that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
kind of like where you specialize. Like
That's
later
why
on,
applied
that's a
computer
whole
science
decision
is
you
a
make
big
like
thing.
later on.
Do you mean that's
Yeah.
like master's level already?
Yeah.
It's like
Or
it's
even-
like, it's like 4th year
Oh,
computer
okay.
science. It's the same thing we have it in applied too, but with applied like for example we can't do artificial intelligence in applied because it requires a lot of math.
I'm changing. That's one. I'm taking several math courses this summer purely because I'm thinking now, like, honestly, just with a lot of the AI stuff going on, I want to have a specialization in machine learning. Like, I previously worked in machine learning and I didn't do anything actually machine learning related.
Yeah, that-
you know,
that
I
is
didn't.
all-
Can you give us some
Also-
examples of machine learning? Because I feel like some people don't know.
So-
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, so what I did last summer during my co-op is I worked for an audiovisual company called Ross Video. So what they do is they build and create all the software for large cameras and things that are on tracks and on pulleys and on ropes and stuff for big events. So like at the Super Bowl, at most major sports stadiums, if you come from Toronto or if you're in Canada, you might know that the Jays got a big new visuals in their stadium, and that was Ross. So what I worked in was the section of the company that was working on developing an AI algorithm to track face and bodies, to have a camera that is set on a dolly and runs along a track to be able to track your subject, and then basically remove all the people who are working to control the cameras manually, edit them, change their viewpoints and stuff, to just be one person who can say, I want to focus on this person, I want to look through this camera, do this, and just have it all done automatically. So what I did was super like not machine learning related stuff. Obviously I was a first year computer science student. They're not going to be okay, write this for us. I had to do mostly data annotation. So that's something that I previously I didn't really know much about in AI. Is the biggest thing about AI is training on your data. And so for something like what we were doing, I needed to go through and annotate individually, frame by frame, maybe 30, 40,000 frames, where I drew bounding boxes on a person. And what you would do is you would send those images or those videos cut up into images through the AI and tell it, okay, draw a box on a person. And then you would score it based on how accurate that box was to the ground truth, which is what, I was doing annotating.
Yeah.
So, that's an example of just like a basic, like, facial body recognition AI that we used a previous model and sort of adapted it for our purposes.
Yep.
But I mean, nowadays, like, people hear about AIs everywhere, and I mean, I think the biggest one now that like everybody really knows about is ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
I'm assuming everyone's here has had to play around with that. Everyone's messed around with ChatGPT.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
just
So
before we move on, like
Yeah.
so that thing you're talking about, like the job you had, that goes on to like say like the amount of things like you can get into just because of computer science,
Oh, yeah.
especially with like AI. Like nowadays, like I come from Dubai, for example, right? And then in Dubai they have a lot of things are just moving to AI, like police cameras, completely AI.
Yeah.
The police doesn't even have to do anything; it's completely just AI oriented, right?
Yeah.
And that just shows like computer science opens up so many things for you. And let's not talk about the money and how much it makes. It makes a lot of good money.
I was gonna actually mention a price point, but apparently Microsoft is now hiring for ChatGPT. They were hiring prompt writers.
Prompt writers.
Yeah,
really? Wow.
because they need a lot of different combinations of. If you write dentist, they would write the whole sentence that dentist would mean, like, oh, I'm a dentist, I want this and this. So they would have to make a lot of combinations. They're currently over 300,000 price points. Yeah, so those are pretty
That's
big because
wild.
I feel like a big concern with ChatGPT is like taking jobs away from people.
Yeah.
And I feel like my dad was talking to me about it after I played around with ChatGPT, and he played around with it the other day too, and he was like, "Do you think this will take away our jobs as programmers?" But I feel like that ChatGPT is just changing the and adding more positions of what's needed.
Yeah.
I think it's changing. I think it's going to change every job scope.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
100%. I think just, and I don't think it's gonna change it in the sense that I don't think it's gonna replace every job. I think that's completely. I think everybody's just really scared because it's so exciting how powerful it is. Everybody's like, oh my god, it's gonna take my job. I don't think it's gonna take everyone's job. I do think it's gonna be used as a tool in every job.
100%. I mean, it is already kind of being used as a tool, right? You see a lot of, well, we're not supposed to say this, but like a lot of university students, high school students using it, right? But like also AI, like, it's like you kind of also question like to what extent. I know this is kind of going off topic, but it's like to what extent can like machine learning be the same as like a human, right?
Yeah.
The same, like having this, like, because a human has a soul, right? He has emotions.
Yes.
Like that person has emotions, an AI doesn't, right? And it will never be able to get to that point.
So, and then like the other thing is that like everybody's really scared of ChatGPT and like how. Let's all talk about quickly, just sort of like how we got into computer science, because we're all computer science students here. Personally, I started coding in like middle school technically because I learned Scratch and that shit was fun. And then after that, I took in high school we had computer science classes that were offered from grade 9 to grade 12. So I took those and I learned C++, just basic logic and like loops and ifs, and C++ sucks. C++ is a terrible language, but it was great because after high school I got to learn like Java and Python and stuff, which are just so much simpler syntax wise. So like I sort of knew that I wanted to go into coding or computer science when I was like a lot younger because I just really liked the problem solving aspect of it, and I sort of found that if I really enjoyed the feeling of finishing a good piece of code and getting everything done that I wanted to have done and it worked perfectly, there was no bugs, like that feeling to me was just so much better than what I could envision in any other field of work. So I mean that's how I got in, but like how about you guys?
I can go. I'll most probably have a different perspective than you guys, because it's like, so I did do Scratch in primary school. I was making like games. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. I'd actually take up my break times to do Scratch, but like, and then I got into middle school and then high school especially. And I was taking like I don't know if you guys know like the IB curriculum, and I was kind of getting I was kind of getting into dentistry, biology, chemistry, all those sciences, and I still liked them a lot, but it was too much work for me, and for some reason in 1 month my whole idea changed, and I was like, fine, let me just do computer science, let me just test it out. Then I got into it, and it was just like I was so lost at the start, because especially like I got into normal computer science, and then I was like, okay. Then I called my parents and I was like, I need to change my program. So, because my dad also graduated with a computer engineering like degree and he has a PhD in it, but like he doesn't pursue it anymore. So he's like, listen, it's hard at the start, but trust me, it will get much easier. Then after that, like after taking like the main courses on like 1105, 1110, and then
the introduction courses.
Yeah, the introductory courses, which are pretty good for people, and especially with like specific professors, to be honest. And then and I got into and then I saw what 2110 has to offer, which is like kind of like thank God it has no practicums, but it has like algorithms and like it's mostly problem solving, like you said.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
like kind of interesting because like I really like thinking logically about the code.
Mhm.
I don't like coding might be not my best qualities, but like thinking about the code
Yeah.
and how to formulate a code in my head is pretty nice. And but yeah, that's basically my computer science experience. I went from
Yeah.
dentistry, something completely different,
Mhm.
way more work, like 8-10 hours a day, to something a bit less work, but you know, like it was still something like
It's
I
still
don't regret the
challenging.
decision.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think another thing is that a lot of people think that computer science is a much harder degree than it is.
Yeah.
I think that it sounds a lot more threatening. Like
Yeah.
going,
Mhm.
especially from high school, people was thinking like, "Oh,
Especially-
you're taking computer science." It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wow, that's a
Especially at
lot."
Dal, right? Especially at Dal, like especially if you have no programming experience from before. Because I got into it and then like you know like now for example like I can write a code and
Mhm.
I can write a pre-world code that will make sense to someone. I might not be the best at coding. I can write like
Yeah.
I can write like 200 lines of code in Java, but that's about it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like in this field, it's like you get better by doing.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like there is
Yeah.
lectures and all that, but most of the learning comes from doing the work.
Yeah.
So I feel
That's
like if you're the
why,
kind of person that's like you learn by doing, I feel like that would be great.
That's why assignments are good than giving examinations at the end. I
Yeah.
like doing
Yeah, it's also good for like
yeah.
if you don't love exams, because I found that in computer science, a lot of the courses are not exam heavy.
There'll be
Yeah.
assignment.
It will be a lot. Yeah, it will be assignments, and the
That's the best.
the
thing.
marks come from like a lot of assignments that are worth much less than just a huge exam taking 40% of your whole mark, for
Yeah.
example.
I think as well, like what you were saying, because you came. I mean, we have very different backgrounds when it comes to kind of getting computer
Yeah.
science, right? You know, I've programmed for 7-8 years now, but I think that the difference between my level of coding in high school, which was very very simple, and what it is now is massive. And I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
once you get past that first sort of hump of just learning the basics of coding,
100%.
learning just like how you should structure your code,
Yeah.
like loops, arrays, ifs, else, like basic logic and stuff like that. Like you said earlier as well, it becomes a lot easier to learn new languages once you start learning things about databases and back-end like server-side stuff. Like you start learning Node
Yeah.
and PHP and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You start learning how to apply multiple different things and bring them all together to create new things. And I think the more and more you learn, especially in a university degree, at least at Dal, I think I've found like the topics that they teach are really important and really well done. So I think the more and more you learn, your knowledge of coding and how well you can code increases exponentially.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean-
I think you get.
I mean that is right. For example, like I had the same situation with me because I was like, I didn't know what to do with Java at all. Like especially with 11.05.
Mhm.
And I was like it was kind of my fault because I didn't pay much attention to it. But like with 11.10, like when I actually started like going to lectures, asking help from TAs, like you know I was like I knew there was someone else there like to support me. And then I was like, when I would like read it, for example, what I do like that would help me personally is I'd look at the code or like I'd look at it and then I'd write down the code and I'd write it next to it like in a comment. I'd comment it out and then I'd write like, for example, what it would mean in pure English, right? Like a pseudocode basically, right? And then from that way I'll understand it. For example, like an if statement, right? It's like if this happens, then this will happen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not instead of saying if and then you put you put the argument and then you print out something, right?
Yeah.
Our side does something. It makes a lot more sense with like English.
Yeah.
written.
For sure.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like really, computer science is just like it's just teaching you how to problem solve and it's giving you tools to help you solve problems.
Online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And
Yeah, with like technology, pretty much. Yeah.
Life of a student of computer science or the person who has completed the degree of computer science is like adventurous. They can do anything in the future. They can invent new things. They can work on previous things, and that's literally cool and everlasting thing in life.
On that topic, I think that I agree 100%. I think computer science offers a skill that, especially in this world where tech is everywhere and in everything, it offers the capability to do something and create something that, you know, a vast majority of people have no idea how to do and have no capability of ever doing something like that. Like, I mean, personally, like, I just for fun I messed around with the OpenAI API and just built like a little fun little website for me and my friends where you could just like input it like a name or something, and it would give a funny prompt about your buddy's name or something like that.
Nice.
And that's super simple, and like it took me no time. But if I showed that to somebody who has never touched a piece of code before, they would be like, wow.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
have
You know,
done?
exactly. And but just you go through university in computer science and you learn what an API is. You learn how to integrate an API into your website, and then from that, all you know that all you need to do is just write an HTML site, CSS styling, and then connect your API using Node or whatever package you're planning on using. But that's it's simple. It seems simpler to us, but it just seems very, very hard to others because they haven't broken into it yet.
And the good thing is with the internet, because we have so many resources available. And the good thing about most of for example 1170 web development, like HTML and CSS, they kind of push you to go use other extra sources, which I know in other programs which will not like that because it will count as plagiarism or academic integrity. And then with these courses that go use these sources like W3 Schools or any of these sources that are available. GitHub too. I think has some of it too. Like you read other code. It's pretty nice, right?
I feel like they're very good at teaching us to teach ourselves. Because I feel like in computer science, it's ever evolving, and it's always changing. So you always have to know how to go online, research, and teach yourself new skills. And I feel like Dal is doing a great job of teaching us to be able to do that ourselves later on in the future.
And speaking of that, what's weird is that I've noticed, even just with my friends, I mentioned before, I live with 4 commerce students, right? I'm better than them at Googling. Which is it's weird to think about because it's that's such a that's not even a skill, but it's it is when I Google something to find something out, I know how to word it better than they do to get a better response and get a better. And it's just that's just because I Google everything when I'm doing an assignment and stuff like that. You learn how to break down the problem that you're having into little sections, learn about each one, and then figure out how to fix it properly, right? And learning how to learn on your own is the best tool you have.
Actually, internet and Google is promoting us through sources how to do certain activities related to computer science, but the internet and Google is a big hurdle for high school students because it's, I think, misguiding them by telling them it's hard to do this and this you need to do this before this, and but I don't believe in that thing because I was not linked to any of the computer science language, neither Python, Java, and C++, because I haven't took computer from my 8th grade. I dropped that, but after high school I opted for applied computer science.
So how did you get into how did you decide to go to
actually, after completing my high school, I was thinking to pursue for business-oriented degrees, and I was literally not thinking about computer science. But whenever I got to know about applied computer science, it was mixture of computer science, and then I can have some management courses, which would be further helpful for me if I will be having any kind of entrepreneurship or I can do any kind of job, and it's great help for me because for a businessman nowadays it's harder to hire a software oriented person to get a software or website of their own business to be built. It costs a lot for them, so I think if I know how to make a website, it will be much easier for me to be a good businessman and have a company. And in the initial days I do not need much higher expense to spend on my website. A company having website has a great reputation in the market.
I feel like business is sorry.
No, you go.
I feel like business gets interwoven right now with computer science so much, where if you want to do business, I feel like you really should go into computer science.
I think that you should have at least a rudimentary knowledge of basic coding and logic, and depending on what industry you're in business-wise, every industry in business now has some sort of technology that is just for that business, and you should understand more than just how to use it, how it works and how it was applied and
Robots
why.
are used in restaurants for serving now.
Oh yeah. There's a new actually on that there's a new website was opened up. If you guys know what Dorsha is, it's a famous restaurant in New York City. It has a very long list of people who want to go there, who want to get reservations and stuff. So they built a new website for that, which actively lets people bid on spots in their restaurant. So you could say, I can book a table at 8:30 at Dorsha, but I have to spend over $300 at the restaurant. And then
To
when
keep
you
the spot.
to keep the spot.
Wow.
So then when you go to the restaurant and you pay $50, that comes off of the $300 automatically. It's connected. Their payment system is
Oh,
connected.
because they already
to the-
paid that.
No, so they haven't paid it yet. It's just a promise
need
to
to
pay,
pay that.
but they need to pay at least $300.
If you have the bill of 50, then also you have to pay like 300.
Yeah.
If you have a bill of 100, then
that's
also
just-
you have
that's-
to.
That's just
give
a
them
cool
payment.
integration
Yeah,
of
that's
business
very
and
cool.
computer science, and that's just like a very
That's the
specific
thing. Only a
example.
person oriented with computer science do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
The
having
ideas come with in the mind of a person.
So having the knowledge, the previous knowledge as a computer science, as a programmer or whatnot, having that knowledge and being able to apply it in a business situation is very, very, very useful. And I think that it's, a tool that everybody should have. So I think we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to mention the way I got into computer science. It was very funny because I didn't want to do computer science, and I found out about applied computer science because they have the program Women in Computer Science, and they went to our school and had a presentation for many of the girls. And they were also offering scholarships for girls too, so we can even out the playing field of men and women in the industry. And she kind of told me about what applied computer science is, because I didn't know that was part of it, and I feel like that's pretty funny way of finding out that I want to do applied computer science.
Yeah, and applied computer science, for the viewers at least, is basically computer science. We take essentially all the important and necessary computer science courses. The only difference is that you are not required to take any math courses, and instead you are required to take management and business courses. So the idea is to train people to become better functional programmers, because normally in a real workspace you're not going to be using discrete math, you're not going to be using calculus, you need to know how to code.
And you have a calculator.
Yeah, and you have a calculator. So it does make a lot more sense for a lot of people to take a programming or a course or a degree plan where they learn how to code and they learn how to participate in a business on the business end. So I think that's really cool. So let's also talk about one thing that I think that has been in all of our minds at one point, especially going into computer science, is the job opportunities. From personal experience, I got a co-op in my first semester, after my first 2 semesters of computer science. So I really had no formal knowledge, and even then I was able to place a pretty good co-op where I was making $25 an hour, which is great. But
Jesus.
I have a friend. I have a friend who graduated, first year graduation from a 4-year computer science degree, and was placed at Amazon, where his initial salary was $170,000 a year, and that's like a ridiculously high salary, even for a computer science student. But from what I've seen, and from talking to him and talking to his friends who also were graduating and getting jobs, like the lowest salary was still a good amount over $100K, which is, I can't lie, that was definitely a thought in my head when going into computer
That's
science.
what kind of turned my mind to the idea of computer science, because originally I was going to do psychology, but my cousin, he works for Salesforce. He's just making a pretty good chunk of money, so I was like, you know what, might as well do this.
Yeah, and it seems like the perfect thing. But I will say, coming back at it, my friend also was laid off by Amazon.
Oh, really?
So Amazon and a lot of tech companies this year did mass layoffs, right? Amazon laid off 10,000 employees. Twitter laid off, I don't know how many, but at least half of the workforce.
Yeah, I know Google laid off a lot of people too.
And so people are now sort of getting skeptical about the job industry in computer science, and we talked about it before, ChatGPT. People are getting skeptical and being like, "Oh, it's going to replace all programmers."
They're scared also.
I think it's going to be the complete opposite. I think in 2 years, once programs and things that are dependencies for other websites and other products start getting upgraded, their products are going to fall apart. We're going to get into a sort of stage of people not knowing where anything is or not understanding the code whatsoever because they weren't there when it was written and they don't know how it was written. And then you're going to get to people who are writing with just only ChatGPT. And then it's like, how does this code work? I don't know. I didn't write it. That wasn't me. And then it's going to start getting to the point where we need more programmers. You need these programmers to keep track of everything and make sure everything...
Because when I just... Because when I have anything to say to end it off.
Anything to
All right. Well, I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming along and having a great conversation today, and I'd like to thank our viewers for coming in and watching. But thank you very much. I think that'll be all for today.